Welcome to another Astra guide. I know it's been a little bit of time since my last Astra guide, but Sunset has been out and now I officially feel comfortable. So if you're confused on it, hopefully this video solves it for you. Now let's go over why you would play Astra. The other options are usually you could play something like either Harbor or Omen. Omen, if you're not specifically used to using those sort of curved walls, it's a simpler agent, and I would recommend that for probably anyone plat and below. But anyone above that, I would recommend variants. So you could play like Astra, which is something that not as many people are used to playing against, but also it just gives you that global presence that is really nice. And her smokes being larger also just shuts down a lot of angles that might be harder for smaller smokes. If you look at the size of her smokes, it covers B main. You could even cover the double choke or this singular choke here. You can smoke out mid, and you can help your teammates both on the attack side and defense side with strong defaults no matter where you are on the map. Let's start by talking about the A site and how the map works on defense. This is the first point of contention for attackers. You want to think of it as a defender that you kind of want to shut out as much space. A good way to do it is just to double up with the teammate, and you can place a star like this. With the smokes being so large, it covers the entirety of the sides. There's no gap on either side, so you can actually hold this pretty well as long as you have someone like close back wall right here, whether that's you or a teammate. And you can even have someone like close here along this. You can use this little half wall slab to kind of cover it. You guys can play off of this crossfire. Sometimes it is hard to justify having two players hold this one spot, so you don't always need to. You can always have someone playing like back here, whether that be you or not, and then have someone out here. The reason why this smoke is nice is because if they're planning on going through it fast, they can't just walk out of it. Okay, I say can't as loosely. Like if they do this, right? This is extremely stupid on their part. I want you to understand the psychology. Just because someone can do a play and a play exists doesn't mean that it's a good play and that they would naturally do it. If it wasn't smoked, it would be, you know, much more reasonable for them to clear like this, right? Because they're not walking out of smoke. But the moment you do this, it becomes significantly more risky. Now, I know some people in the comments are going to be like, oh, I'm an iron. They just run through everything and they don't care. It's like, well, in that case, you just shoot them. It's really as simple as that. Just shoot them. Don't need to overcomplicate in this. But obviously, we're going to assume that they have some level of brain knowledge. Maybe that's too much to assume for me. But in this case, if you have this smoke, if they want to take this area, they're going to use util. They're going to use a Fade Prowler, Sky Dog, something. Come and clear this, because otherwise it's way too dangerous to just walk through a smoke. So that's why having this smoke, even though like I'm not enforcing it by playing backhaul, like I'm sitting here technically, because they can walk out like along this side and stuff, it's still good. It shuts out information on their side and they're still forced to kind of respect it in general. And then maybe one round you do end up playing up with it and you have a teammate there, and then all of a sudden if they do walk through, you know, but you don't always need to fight for the direct shutdown. It's very strong against A rushes, but it becomes significantly weaker when they don't go to A, right? If you're stacking two players holding this small choke and they never go to A, you're kind of wasting your time. So that's why you kind of change it up, you know? If you start noticing, yeah, they're not going A and they're going B a lot, then don't bother with this. Play a more passive position, throw your star up, and then just make sure you're holding like this. You can also play along this side. This side is also fine. If anything, this gives you kind of a better angle and make sure that they lose even more space, because you can watch all the way down this diagonal, so they can't even get up to like this wall if you were watching from backhaul. The only one downside is that you can't get spammed through this, so there's a chance that if you're trying to get away, you could die if they insta dink you. After that, once you lost that, you want to kind of determine what second level of sight hold you're hitting. So we're assuming they're rushing. So once they get past this part, you want to either hold backhaul or you want to hold this. So either like smoke like that, or you can kind of smoke like this. Next one, which is honestly generally better. Now I want you to think why this is better. It's not because it helps you hold the site better. It helps your teammates rotate in. When they smoke like this, if you don't have this smoke deep there, they can't run through it. If they run through it, they're focused on the people who are likely already crossed, as well as the people who are going to come out elbow. And then also here, it's like over 90 degrees of angle that you have to worry about. So in that case, what you want to do is make sure this is smoke. So if your teammates are running through, if they beat the timing and there is a smoke here, then they could go resume pick holding like this. So like if I was a defender rotating in and I saw this, my teammate's still outside, then I can go like up close, right? And then just hold the edge of the smoke like this. And then I kill the guy that was coming back haul. And then if they run through the smoke, they're likely not gonna go do this, right? Then run out like this and they die. All right, so that's why this smoke is generally better. The other one is good if you have a heavy, like if you're playing on holding. And your teammates can flood in on time. Yeah, so the reason, it's also because this allows for a faster rotate. So if you're like alone on A, you want people to get there faster, throwing this is faster. Otherwise they have to do this whole long trek of going all the way down here and all the way up here and then all the way onto site, and then they can fight this side, right? And this is a lot farther. So Keep that in mind. Let's talk a little bit about star defaults. So in general, there's pretty much 2 stars. 2 stars that you really need to do. You can put down a 3rd star if you want to. I'll show you what that is. But 2 stars is if you're comfortable with being flexible as Astra. I'd recommend this just because no other star is really that valuable that you feel like, oh, I need this star down. So let's talk about it. The first one I would recommend is this deep one. This in general just shuts out a lot of information. And then the second one I would recommend is the B main one. Now, how you want to smoke it is going to be completely different depending on what you want to do. But in general, this one right here is the best one. You're gonna notice it's not flush to this. So someone stick it like right here so that it like pops in a little bit here. I like this one specifically because this is a pain in the ass for attackers to deal with. You're gonna notice when I pop the smoke, not only does it block the main, the people can, like the defenders can be in the smoke. They can walk along the back here, and you have no idea. And if you want to clear this, like let's say I have a fade prowler, you don't just clear like this way, right? You have to clear like this way and try to check around the back of the smoke. That's wasted util that, you know, could have been used to go out instead and clear this close corner, or like clears this close corner and stuff like that. So like you realize that if you do that, and it allows you obviously to actually do what they expect or could expect, which is, you know, being aggressive. This is pretty good on eco rounds. If you have like a judge or something, just like walk up here, and this is like, this is so annoying to deal with. If you're like walking here and you want to like manually clear, there's a guy's crouching here with the judge, you're dead. And then this guy can actually get back out after the, like, while the smoke is up. So that's kind of the really great parts. And then you can do your normal pulls. With the changes to Astra, there is, like, I would say before, there was like 99% of the time using your gravity well was better than using Nova Pulse. Your concuss sucked back then and your pull was OP. Now they nerfed the gravity well. Now there's like a little charge up time if you guys want to see it. I'm gonna press C right now. You're gonna notice how it doesn't kick in until like half a second later. It used to be instantaneous, which means that if you saw someone near it, you activate it, they're gonna be affected by the pull. But now if you're even half, you have to kind of almost be early, which is kind of rough. So you want to pop it like even before you see someone a little bit, just like right before, so that it actually affects them. But anyway, that's a lot harder to time. So why is Nova Pulse better? It's because Nova Pulse now has a faster cast. So see, it's like instant. Like pretty much if you start like anywhere near the middle of the star and you're running laterally across it, you're probably not gonna get out of it. In general, I always thought Nova Pulse as an effect, like what happens to you is better than a pull. Pull slows you down, yeah, pulls you to the center and then makes you fragile, right? You take double damage. But with Nova Pulse, you get stunned, like breach stun, and honestly, I think that's better. They shoot very slow, pretty much dead. They can't move very fast. So I think Nova Pulse is better. So this is like an equivalent. Well, I'm detracting. I like Nova Pulse now. That's my point. So if you see people running through Nova Pulse, or if majority of the team is through Nova Pulse, if someone's on the star, like you're paying attention to the minimap, Nova Pulse. If they haven't yet got out, or it's just like the jet that dashed through, pull is fine. Pull acts like a molly. Think of it more of a molly now. Like when they see that, they're gonna wait it out, and this entire time where they're waited out, and the entire time if they're hit by the fragile, they are going to be molly. Let's say not molly as in damage, but molly as in like I don't want to go out, or you know what I mean? Okay, so that's kind of what you want to think of it now. Pull has a longer effect, like over time. Nova Pulse has a more instantaneous effect. So there, you think of it like that. Wait, before we continue, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Gosu Academy. If you want to be the best at Valorant, there's no better place to go. And let me tell you why. They understand that there's no shortcut to getting good, and that's why even their most basic training programs are a month long. You'll have access to masterclass lessons from professional coaches that have coached professional teams, demo review, Q&A classes, and full access to a huge community of other players around the world that are just as committed to getting better like you. I haven't even told you the best part yet. Each week there are 10 mans hosted by Gosu Academy that anyone within the rank range can join. There you'll meet other people at the same skill level and play in 10 mans that will also be reviewed at the end with a live coach to answer any questions that you might have. Now you might be thinking, wow, this is all great and stuff, but it must be expensive. And to that I have to say, yeah. Psych! The basic package is only 29 USD a month for everything that I listed above. But here, let me help you out. In the video description, I have a link that will get you a month of coaching for absolutely free. That's right, you can get a month's access to professional coaches and staff that will accelerate your growth to Radiant. Plus, you'd be supporting the channel. And we all love that, right? Make sure to check out Gosu Academy, links in the description, and thanks to them for sponsoring this video. If you're wondering where you should play, like B or A, they both work. A is generally more passive. There's not much you could do. B requires you to be more of a hard anchor. A is if you're like, maybe you're not fragging that hard. It's actually better to not go to the site that they're hitting more often as Astra. Now, if you're wondering why, I explained it in a previous video about the issues of playing Astra. It's like the problem with Astra. And basically the point is, the site that's the weakest on the defense is the site that Astra's on. This is because she has stars that work globally, right? But why hit the site if there's Astra, Jet, and then there's like 2 jets on the other side? Hit the site with Astra, because Astra's gonna be on the site with the 2 jets anyway with the stars, you know what I mean? So that's the kind of case. You kind of want to stray away from the sites that have a ton of pressure being put on or like being consistently hit, because if you put another agent there, they have their utility plus your utility, so it's just gonna be more effective to not be there. It sounds weird, but yes, that is kind of the truth. So the site I like to play on is B a lot, and there's a lot of things I'll incorporate in my B play. This is because I personally think my shutdowns and buying time for A is pretty good. B also can be hit like a medium amount of time. I don't swap that often unless I'm doing terrible, then I'll ask to swap. Let's talk about holding B site. When you're holding B site, star like this, star like this. Now do not play back site. I hate this. I hate when people just sit here, right here while I'm standing by the pillar from the beginning of the round. There's no point. You've wasted essentially any timing and you have no information. You can get free information pretty much in every map just by playing a little aggressive. Not enough to risk your life, but enough to like make sure that they have to actually come and check you. So the number one thing is Cypher cam. It's usually here, here, here. It's really good because it spots if you cross. Now, what you can do is if you immediately swing off the barrier and break it, they still have to worry if you crossed because there's a timing window where you can. And then you can back off if you want. You could play up. It's kind of risky after you break the camera, but you can. They still have to do their due diligence and check. But anyway, so you break the camera, and then what I'll do here is I'll sit and just jump peek. This is because a lot of times they won't take B main. They just won't, because they're working mid or they're working A. And if they're not going to take B, I want to know that. Because that way, you know how there's 2A, 1 mid, 2B. Now all of a sudden, there doesn't need to be 2B. Just leave me here, jump peeking. I'll play this the entirety of the game until someone decides to push me off, right? And this way, I have a lot of information. This way, if they make a lot of noise A and I've jump peeked this for the entirety of the round and I don't see anything, I'm like, it's probably not B. Like, if they wanted it to go B at any point in the round, they would have, like, late or fake it or something. They would need to take B main at some point. But if they didn't, then, you know, it's probably the other side. So everything, all the strats become a lot more telegraphed once you have this idea of whether, like, the likeliness of them doing it. So anyway, so I'll do this, gains a lot of info. If they push me off, then I can fall back. Then I'll go back to this back pillar area. And this is fine. All right, so we want to make sure we don't give that to them for free. Make sure that they have to use the break. You break their camera. They use a raid prowler or a dog or something, then, you know, you break that. All of a sudden, they're down 2 pieces of utility just by you playing up front. Now, all of a sudden, what if, and they also have to show presence, which is another thing that you get. They can't just blindly do this. If you sit back here, you will have no idea if they walked out. And you have to play, like, super passive, like always wondering, like, oh, what if they timing? If I leave there, well, they could be in B main, right? They could be, I have no idea. But if you're playing up, then, like, unless they're sitting here the entire freaking round, like, it's unlikely, you know what I mean? Okay, I realize I say you know what I mean a lot, but I hope you guys know what I mean. Okay, so in terms of this, the other star that you could place is for right here. This is just to help your market defender, but a lot of times you don't really need to fully commit to defending this. If you have a market player in here, then you should be fine, and usually it's like a trip or something. But smoking that out is good if they're getting pressured. Like, if we decide to fight this and we didn't close the door, it's hard to close the door after. So throwing a smoke there, you know, makes it very enticing for them to fight through. It's just a small choke. Last thing I did want to mention is sometimes their B hits are just really strong. It happens. They're just good at it. So how do you do this? You could do this smoke and then this pull, right? But sometimes they will make it out, or like your teammates don't rotate fast enough. This star right here at the bottom of the stairs, it's a general marker, but this is a really good area to do it. Makes it really awkward for them because when they come out of the smoke, if you smoke like this, right? This is probably a pretty normal place to plant. This is also a pretty normal place to plant. Basically, you commit to taking a certain amount of losses in terms of site. Like, you can't hold the entirety of site. Fine, I won't hold the entirety of site. I'll hold half the site. And that's what this smoke essentially does. When you throw it like this, if they want to push to take back site, they have to push through a smoke. And you just have to hold like this, and it's fine. Like, you can even hold like this if you want, right? And this becomes really awkward for them to come. They gotta look here, and they gotta look here. The next thing is you can use it to re-aggress, which is if, like, the jet dashed in, you pop the smoke and you just, like, kind of sit in it. If they're planting, get the kill. Otherwise, you can come out this corner. Hopefully, this is still smoked. You can get a 1v1 with this guy. Then you'll go back to swing the rest of the site. But anyway, it gives you a lot of room to play with. It also is very annoying for them to deal with, because even if you decide to do the most passive play, which is sit behind and watch the smoke, this is a dangerous smoke to look at. You're like, I have no idea. If you decide to sit in the smoke, you maybe get a kill if anyone pushes in. If they decide to ignore it, then they're just like leaving this huge ass gap of nothing. And because it's so easy to spam a lot of the times, like if you think about it, it's like very intuitive where the stuff is, and you could just like if you come here and you heard someone walk this way, you can just spam it and get the kill and get back out. Yeah. So those 3 stars would likely be what I would use, and I think that after that it's pretty up much. You've done your job. You stalled. You have the ability to play retake. It's just in general really strong. This market area, I wouldn't kind of play this area too much. Maybe if you have like a Cypher playing on B and he's holding B site, but if you're doing the anchor, you don't need to really do this. Also, you just generally don't want to take any aggro fights. It just doesn't match Astra's kit. It doesn't make sense. Now mid, do you smoke this top mid? No. You let them smoke it. They can waste their utility. They can waste their money because this benefits you. There's a lot of angles that you can peek off the beginning, right there, right here, there, you know, hold that. And then anytime they're walking up, they also have to worry about getting timing. It benefits them to smoke this more than you. So just let them do it. If you're going to smoke, you can smoke down here, but it's also like kind of a waste if you don't enforce it. So if you're not pushing down with it, if you're not like taking some sort of pick or some sort of aggression. So if you're like smoking here and then you have like an op posted up here, or like posted for market, yeah, that's great. But otherwise, I wouldn't highly recommend just like not really bothering with this unless there's a reason you want to fight for it. Make sure you rotate accordingly based on information. So if they're mid, usually that doesn't really tell you much. You just want to make sure that you're holding for mid. If they've already walked up mid, then I would recommend you probably want to smoke it. If it's silent mid round and they're not making noise toward A or B, then you're going to expect multiple players toward mid. This makes sense, right? They got to be somewhere. So in that case, okay, sure, smoke it off if you're alone. If you're not alone, you could always play crossfire, but these are kind of like niche cases. Just good to know. Like this is just like, honestly, it's just game sense telling you what to do rather than like, oh, this is because I play Astra a lot. It's just game sense. And then the next thing is if you lose brackets control, which is like this area, or backhaul control, then you need to start shifting toward A. They're just way too close to sight. In terms of B, you saw how much control I was maintaining. It's pretty fine until you spot someone like behind this billboard in B main, but before that, you don't need to necessarily rotate too fast. So let's talk a little bit about walls. On the defense side, it's kind of like really awkward with walls. You kind of just want to wall off what you can hold, but a lot of times on the A side they'll have elbow or backhaul control and they'll have like this area. It's pretty rough to like do like that. So what I would recommend is just throwing a wall like this and then smoking out the other, as long as you have teammates to hold. If they plant it back here, then you just start sticking. It's pretty like simple. It's hard for them to run through a wall. It's very dangerous. If you don't have the ability to hold it and you just want to wall off the spike, there's no like perfect wall. I just want to mention that if you guys are expecting like a perfect wall on retake, it's like too hard because you have this and this. It's like really hard. You could get a wall like this, but then this requires you to fight for this area. And a lot of times if you're retaking, you don't want them to fight. You want them to push through your wall. You post it for the wall. They're forced to come out because everything's walled off. For B site, it's pretty simple because most of the time when they play post plant, it's just from B main. So just wall off B main. That's like 99% of their post plant. They could technically go market. I'm not going to say that they can, but usually you'll retake market. You'll take time to retake market when you're coming to retake B. So usually you should fight for this area and then retake B through market and through spawn. And that way you have a pinch on sight. And then with the wall, you're all set. These 3, and then yeah, then you just get someone to hold like this. And if you have a crossfire, you get someone to hold like this, and then you win the round. It's pretty simple if they end up doing that. It's essentially a glorified smoke, just making sure that no one can spam you. But it also just puts a lot of pressure. I want you guys to remember, Astra Wall now does not make any sound on the opposite side. So you can't hear anything. Before, you could hear the spike being tapped, hear running, hear walking, hear shooting. But now, if you're on the opposite side, you hear nothing. So the moment that wall goes up as an attacker, you're highly pressured. It could have been tapped at any point. They need to check it early. So there's no way that they can know. Now we talked about the defense. We are on the attack side. So as an attacker, what kind of changes about the map and what should you worry about? A lot of it is about mid control. Sunset is definitely a mid control heavy map. Now I want you to think, if you're wondering why, it's because if you want to go A main right here, right? If you want to go here, Remember what I said about before? If it's a smoke, you kind of have to take it risky. And it's like a lot of maps that don't rely on mid allow for one player to kind of lurk through different parts of the map. But on A and B, it's kind of hard to do. It's because you have one choke for B, you have one choke for A, and the moment you want to like take space on either of these sites, you have to commit to like very serious fights that you are likely going to lose. Like it's one here and then one there. So it's just like it's way in the open, and this entire time as like a one player here, I'm like walking up, I'm like, I really hope no one swings from the right. I really hope no one swings from the right. I really hope no one swings from the right. And you go to watch the right. I really hope no one swings from the left. I really like, you see how like this entire time is just like very gambly. It makes it feel kind of uncomfortable to do. And then toward B, it's just like the only way you can get picks is from like the back billboard area and just watching on the site and hope someone peeks you. But like, let's be honest, they're gonna jump peek it if they're good. And then you're just gonna get spotted. That's about it. So where can we get the most amount of space? It is this mid area. Now the normal smoke is always smoke top mid. If we're defaulting, smoke top mid. There are a few spots I want you to know. One, the defense can always walk down mid before you can see them. This is just rule of the game. Unlucky, bro. Don't stop complaining. So you need to make sure that they didn't walk up here. I've also seen people go up here. This is also pretty unique. I sometimes get caught off because I forget this is an angle, but that is an angle. If you don't smoke this, by the way, you will likely just get shot like this. Just be careful. So that's why we smoke this. And then after that, the next angle is deep market. Do I smoke this? You might be asking. No. Not because it's a bad thing to smoke. It's because it's too much commitment to use throughout a round. You use 2 stars, right? First of all, half your util. Second of all, if you think about it, smokes take, was it 45 seconds off cooldown? If you use 2, it's gonna take a minute and a half before you have both of your smokes. And if you want to hit any of your site, the round's gonna be over. You're just gonna have no time. So that's why use 1. That way you can still hit a site in a reasonable amount of time, you know? So yeah, use 1. It's not worth. Maybe if you want to do something gimmicky, sure, you can like smoke this and then pull this one back and then take a fight after it drops. Yeah, sure, dude. You have fun. Go wild. But in general, don't need to, and you just want to work through this. You want to pressure them into hopefully closing this door, and you want to break it so that you're just generally pressured. And then after that, you can decide. Like once you take this, a lot of rotates will need to shift toward watching mid or toward watching market, as a lot of mid pressure will pull the people that way. So by doing that, you're good. Now let's say if we want to kind of go for picks. Well, if you're going through market, we usually, I would say, get your teammate to use a dog or something. There's not much you can do. You can stun like here, you can stun here, you can smoke that. But in general, like you're gonna need some level of utility to take this market area. So if you're trying to get a pick mid, then you want like a left and right. This is a lot of coordination. You want to make sure like someone's watching your left, someone's watching your right, and then we're gonna want to clear like this. If you're gonna pick one that you want to do, try hugging the right. It's a little bit safer. You get close, you get angles like as soon as this. When in reality, when you're on this one, you have to peek like as wide as like this, right? And then you can see how like my gun is almost sticking out. So yeah, it's safer from this side. Take the peaks, clear the left, and then if you are doing it solo, then you can. But this entire lane is very dangerous, as you can see, like because this I need to focus straight, but they could always peek like this way. So yeah, it's kind of hard to do. It's more of a risky play. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you're getting like a really good timing lure. All right, let's talk about our routine for hitting B. So number 1 is if you're playing slow, I like doing this one. I like to nova pulse this right off the rip. Sometimes I'll do it probably during the beginning of the game, condition them to think that I'll do it, and then after sometimes I won't. It just makes it like really awkward because they don't want to like walk over here if they're gonna get stunned, so they'll just back off, and you can just use that to deter them. You don't need to worry about this. You can just come and clear it yourself. Next, after this, you want to bait out the smokes. I don't think rushing is super good in Valorant just in general. Like rushing through a smoke is like only if the enemy team is really bad. If it's working, then by all means do it. But like if it's not working, then I think rushing just in general is super bad. You want to bait out the smoke, and you want to hold this position. So once you bait out the smoke, what you do is cut noise so that they don't know whether once this smoke fades, if they want to re-smoke it or not. You want to cut noise. You want to hold this position, make sure that they don't clear this, right? They don't check to make sure that you're gone. And then you can like continually having people mid and A making noise. And then when the smoke fades, the smoker has 1 smoke off cooldown, right? So they're wondering like, do I re-smoke B or do I just hold on to it, use it for somewhere else? Because there's no noise being made here, right? And then your teammates group up and then you hit the site. That's generally the best way. You do a re-hit. It's not really a re-hit actually. It's more of a just default bait out util and then hit the site. If you guys want to see like content on like what re-hitting and like pro terminology on certain things, then I'd be more than happy to explain. Just leave a comment down below. Let me know. All right. So the smokes for hitting the site is going to be 1 for market and 1 for spawn. These are the normal 2. Covers the spawn, don't get shot. Covers this. Still going shot from deep. Now, how can we like add a few like extra spiciness to this? throw a smoke like this blocks, it kind of cuts it in half, and you can take the site. Now this highly, I want you to know, throwing a smoke like this pretty much says I'm getting the spike down and I'm getting the hell out, because you don't have much room to play with here. You can throw this one and you could throw this one and you could try to take the rest of site. But the issue is, like, they can come up like this way and they can look this way, so you don't even have like a singular fight here. This actually isn't like the worst, but it, like, obviously your teammates aren't gonna necessarily be used to this. This is more of a I'm planting and I'm getting the hell out. They're the kind of two things you can do. I would always pretty much just recommend having some, like, you need to have the market cross. Like if you have 1 star, you can say screw the spawn one, but you do need the market one. And then if you have a stun or pull, I would pull like here or here. This one or this one. This one is more of a stun angle because they can't get out. This one is more of a pull angle because it's like very awkward for them. And then after this pops, they're gonna get out. That's how we would think about it. This one, yeah, they just have to tank the stun. If this was a stun, if they're like toward the edge, they could just back out. And you want this to last as long as possible while you're scaling on site. Now, after you have these smokes down, what are you gonna do? You wanna make sure you're taking site. You don't want to just, you know, willy-nilly plant the spike and not hold this space. It's because your only spot after that will be B main if you don't hold the space. So what you're gonna do, I think honestly, really good positions to go will be like right here and just watching from like this. They can't really see you. Also, their main focus is not going to be here. Unless you made noise crossing here, their main focus is going to be here. And then someone pillar so they can jiggle left. They can jiggle right. And then you're going to want 1 or 2 B main and then maybe even somewhere here. But they remember, you need to be crouching. Your head will show. So it's going to be like this. That's pretty much how you play the B site. You will realize that it is kind of claustrophobic sometimes. And to counter that, you can push through your own smokes. Like you can do it out of just risk. Just be like, I'm just going to push in. Right, and just push in. Remember, always when you're pushing in your smoke, look to the side, and when you're going through the smoke, then you swing in. If you guys are wondering why, your gun is like peeking in the smoke at this point. You can see it, and I see nothing. So doing it from the side and then swinging in. Yeah. So peeking from the side and then swinging in gives them like basically no time to react, and you see them at the same time as they see you. Maybe they see you a little bit faster, but it definitely just like you don't die like this, you know? Okay. And then it gives you a little bit of more space. Maybe someone just walks in because they're like trying to run through and flash out, get a free kill, gives you that little bit of timing. You can also play off of sound timings, because if you, this happens a lot, especially as smoke players, you should know this. People spam smokes, right? That's natural. If people spam smokes, they will inevitably need to reload, and then therefore you have a timing, and you don't have a timing if you're out here. That's just because you're too far. If they're like, they start reloading here and then you're like running, they hear you and then you're like, it's not much timing anymore. So what you do is you pre-position yourself for almost that happening. And if you're already like here, right? And then you hear this guy reload, then you immediately just walk out. And basically what you're going to do when you walk out, if you know there's multiple players there, you don't aim for the guy reloading. It's pointless. That guy's he's defenseless, right? You're gonna make sure that you're like clearing like anyone that actually has an ability to kill you, and then that guy will be a free kill after. That guy you like is like, you just know that that guy's probably gonna be a free kill, so you want to make sure you're aiming at anyone else that might be here. You go for that. So like a lot of times what will happen, like a direct scenario would be like, oh, they're hiding in this corner, because that happens a lot. You smoke this, right? And then you hear this guy reloading, and then I'll like swing like this, right? And then I'll kill him and then immediately flick up. That's how you want to do it. I know it seems like turning your back to an enemy, but if he's reloading, he's not really an enemy. The next one you could do is toward market. This is also a pretty good way to do it. It's also just like in general pretty awkward for them to expect. And because of this billboard, it's like kind of have some wiggle room to play around without needing to worry about getting shot from other angles. Now let's kind of talk about a hit. So if you have an a hit, if you have multiple teammates here, then it's pretty good to just like not smoke and just walk up. Just have like dog, util, and stuff like that. This crack is the first pre-aim angle. Then it's this wall. And then after that, it's right here. And then this corner. Now I want to kind of preface that when you're pre-aiming stuff, it's okay to not like hit it on the first try. So if you saw like over here, I was like pre-aiming like this, right? But sometimes I don't like know what the pre-aim angle, right? Obviously if I was perfect, I'd be like this, right? And like aim right for the corner. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what it is. Okay, so like if I do it in like 3 chunks, then I'll eventually recognize where pre-aim angle is. Next, the smokes for A, it's 1 up here and then 1 deep here. That's the normal 2. I'm gonna give you an alternative as well. This one allows you to take the entirety of site. So you get to take up to here, take all the back haul. You gotta fight for this. The hardest if they are flood retaking, because this smoke makes it hard to deal with for flood retakes, because they just run out like this, and then they only have to focus on back haul. So they have like a 1v1, a 1 angle they have to worry about, rather than my alternative, which is to throw a smoke like this. This is also a diagonal smoke. You're gonna notice, oh, when they run out, where do they need to look? 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it's just a lot more angles, right? This smoke is a little bit better. It's worse if you don't have the people to enforce the smoke. but it's easier smoke to hold. It's harder for them to like flood retake. So yeah, there's that. That is probably the two options I would give. If you know that they're close or you have like constraint on time and they're like you need a plant or something, throw this and then just have one. The other one is pretty standard. This is just to make sure that you can scale up without getting shot from the side of the head. Like B-side, these smokes are all pushable. Like you can always sit in the smoke if you need the space, or if you need a pick. This is a really good way of opening that up. Puts you in a really good position to maybe just catch someone just walking in, or just like you're so close to them you can hear them running, right? So if you hear like 3 players alive and you hear like 3 sets of footsteps going towards spawn, you wouldn't have known if you're playing too far back, right? But if you're in the smoke and you realize like, oh, they're all there, and you'll get aggressive and then you can reflank, maybe even win the round, even if it's like a 2v3, just because you have good positioning. So yeah, those two are the two smokes. You do want to kind of position for it. So sometimes playing close to the smoke is not usually the best. Playing back here will give you a better angle, and then after that you just play on site post. If you can't get out, use your stars for smokes or pulls or stuns, depending on how long the spike has been going. If it's only just started, then use it for a smoke. It's gonna just last longer and be more effective. If it's like close to the end and is about to blow up, then obviously use a pull or a stun to help you win that gunfight on the spike. Do be careful if you don't have a trip to watch the flank. This is a pretty good angle for this guy who's gonna watch this and watch this. So like you occasionally jiggle and then you go back and you go like hold this real quick, and then you're good. And just alternate too. And it's good for Astra because she can always decide a last second like, oh, they're on site now, I can just pull. I could delay even longer, even though you're off site, so you're relatively safe. As for taking the site, in terms of A, if you want to do that kind of wall, that the smoke that I was saying, you could throw it like this, and this gets you a more flush smoke. You'll notice how that's like covers pretty much all of this and then all of that. So this gets you a pretty like one-use smoke. It does allow for like certain runouts. You, like I said, you need to enforce it. That's essentially it. And then this way it does as well. And remember, they can't hear you now, so run to your heart's content. If you want to do like this, which is a more standard wall, I don't like it. It's just like way too diagonal. Like this, the reason why it's so much worse is because like there's so much more space. They could drop down and they can like swing like this, and then it's like hard for you to really deal with if you're coming up this. It just gives them a lot more space to do this. So I would recommend you chopping it off a little bit shorter. But anyway, you guys all have a great night. I'll see you guys in the next video. Flow out.